Lesnar bleeds in Italy. Oba Femi sparks chaos. Shock ambush on Lesnar. Brutal arena brawl. Beast vs Femi clash. What if the most dangerous man in WWE wasn't even supposed to be in the building that night? And what happens when the Beast walks straight into a trap he never saw coming? Nobody in that Italian arena expected anything unusual when the night started. The crowd was loud, the energy was warm, that typical mix of chants, excitement, and people waving signs that barely make sense from a distance. You know that feeling when you're just waiting for the show to begin and everything feels normal, almost too normal. Like the calm before someone decides to flip the entire table. And then Brock Lesnar showed up. Now, say what you want about Brock, but there's a certain shift in the air when he walks in. It's not just size. It's not just reputation. It's that quiet awareness that something could go wrong at any second and somehow, he'd still be the last guy standing. People were already buzzing, phones up, people nudging each other like, yeah, this is about to get interesting. But here's the thing. Nobody was talking about Oba Femi yet. Not loudly, anyway. At least not until the moment everything went wrong. It started outside the arena. And that's the part that makes it even more chaotic, because usually you expect the madness inside the ring, right? Lights, cameras, bell ringing, all of that. But this wasn't scheduled chaos. This was the kind that sneaks in through the cracks when nobody's looking. Reports started spreading fast in real time. Some fans thought it was part of a segment. Others thought it was security testing something. But then the crowd outside started reacting differently. You know that shift when noise turns from excitement to confusion? That murmur that slowly becomes shouting? Yeah, that kind of shift. Brock Lesnar had barely made it into the vicinity when things escalated. And then Oba Femi appeared. Now, if you've been watching him, you already know the vibe. The guy doesn't walk into situations. He walks into problems like he's been personally invited by chaos itself. But even then, what happened next didn't feel normal. It felt sharp. Sudden. Like someone skipped the warning and went straight to impact. No long stare down. No dramatic pause. Just movement. Fast, deliberate, and brutal. And Brock didn't even get the full picture before it hit him. The first impact came like a shockwave. Fans later described it like watching a car crash in slow motion, except it wasn't slow at all. 1 second there's distance, the next second there's contact, and then everything just explodes into motion. Security rushed in, but honestly, at that point, it was already too late to call it preventing anything. It had become something else entirely. A brawl. A real one. Not the scripted kind where people roll away and reset positions. No, this was messy. Chaotic. Uncomfortable even to watch, according to some fans who were right there at the barricades. And Brock Lesnar, yeah, Brock wasn't just reacting. He was switching into that survival mode people talk about like it's a myth until they actually see it. That calm rage. That you made a mistake energy. But here's the twist that nobody expected. Oba Femi wasn't backing up. Not even a step. That alone made people stop and rethink what they were watching. Because Brock Lesnar doesn't usually meet resistance like that outside the ring. People flinch. People hesitate. People make space. Oba Femi didn't. And that's when things got worse. Somewhere in the middle of the scramble, Brock was visibly shaken up. Not in his finished way, but in that moment where even a monster acknowledges, okay, this just got real. And that's when the detail that spread fastest hit social media first. Brock Lesnar was bleeding. Now the internet did what it always does. It exploded. People weren't even asking what happened first. They were posting clips, zoomed-in screenshots, blurry angles from phones shaking like crazy. The kind of footage where you're not even sure what you're seeing, but you know it's something you're going to talk about later. And suddenly, the tone shifted completely. Because when Brock Lesnar bleeds in public, everything changes. The myth cracks a little. Not enough to break him, but enough to remind everyone that real impact leaves marks. Back outside the arena, the situation was spiraling. Security wasn't just separating two individuals anymore, they were trying to contain a scene that had already spread across the entire entrance area. Fans were shouting, some trying to get closer, others just frozen, holding their phones like they couldn't believe what they were witnessing. And Oba Femi? Still standing there like he wasn't done. That's the part people keep replaying in their heads. Not the hits. Not the chaos. But the stillness after. That moment where everything pauses for half a second and you realize this wasn't random. This wasn't accidental. This felt intentional in a way that makes you uncomfortable. Brock eventually got pulled back by security, but even then, it didn't look like an exit. It looked like a reset. Like both sides were being forced apart before something even bigger could happen. And that's where the mystery really starts. Because nobody has a clean answer for why this happened. Was it a message? Was it personal? Was it a statement that just got out of control? Fans started debating instantly. Some said Oba Femi was trying to establish dominance on the biggest possible stage. Others thought Brock might have been targeted deliberately for attention. And then there's the group saying this wasn't supposed to happen at all, that it was a confrontation that escalated way beyond anyone's plan. And honestly, watching the footage back, it's hard not to see why people are confused. Because it doesn't play like a normal wrestling confrontation. It plays like two forces that weren't supposed to meet yet, colliding anyway. Inside the arena, the energy never recovered. You could feel it even through clips. The crowd was still buzzing, but it wasn't the same excitement from earlier. It was more like shock mixed with disbelief. Like everyone was waiting for someone to come out and say, okay, that didn't just happen. But no one did. And that silence says a lot. Meanwhile, updates kept trickling in. Some sources said medical checks were involved. Others insisted it was more about precaution than injury severity. But let's be real for a second, when Brock Lesnar is involved in something like this, minor is never the word people use first. Fans online were doing what fans always do, replaying every angle, slowing down frames, arguing in comment sections like they're part of a courtroom trial. You had one side saying Oba Femi just made the biggest statement of his career, and another side saying he just woke up something he wasn't ready to deal with. And somewhere in the middle of all that noise is the real question nobody can fully answer yet. What happens next? Because this doesn't feel like something that ends in a single night. It feels like the beginning of something bigger. And if you've been around wrestling long enough, you know moments like this don't just disappear. They get referenced. They get replayed. They build tension until someone eventually has to step